Okay, let's do a quick test, see if this is working. Hi, Sonia. Welcome. Let's see if everything is starting to come in properly. Here we go. And we are now properly live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Sonia, and to whoever is eventually going to be tuning in. Welcome, Selena Jong, that just joined us in the chat. And I'm just going to zoom out here a little bit. Okay. So let me just start by doing something for my own health. As Dr. Figma today, I'm actually sick, which is very much on point. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so my name is Bruno. I am one of the city leads here at Friends of Figma Portugal, and today I'll be your doctor. First things first, I actually would love to know if Sonia and Selena, at least, because I know that you're here, can hear me perfectly or not, if the music is too loud or something like that. I just want to make sure that we're all clear here. Welcome, Nadia. Cool, great. Selena says all good. Awesome. So what is Dr. Figma and how this rolls? Essentially, everyone has their own questions about Figma, has their own problems and pains. And for 1 hour, I'm here essentially for you guys. I think, and you guys are gonna receive a request, but you don't need to turn on your cameras or anything. Or actually, you can turn the presenter mode. Sorry, guys, I think I just turned on presenter modes for people. And Audrey, welcome, Audrey, also. But essentially is, if you want to chat, if you want to take questions, I'm here for you. If not, we always have a theme every week. This week, we're going to be talking about design systems and building from the basics to some degree of evolved work here with Figma. Welcome, Borja. So for the ones on friends.figma.com that are joining us directly on the stream here, basically, you can join the stream at any point in time with your camera and microphone if you want to. Welcome, Yuri. Welcome, Tiago. Welcome, Carolina. And just ask your questions, go live a little bit with me, and we can riff raff on your concerns, your problems. You should all have access as presenters, but if you don't, let me know and I'll turn on your option to turn camera. If not, just drop your questions on the chat and I'll try to answer them the best I can. For those that might be watching us on YouTube, same thing. Ayadil, I'm just going to basically ask you all questions. If you want to drop your problems with Figma that you would love to have someone like work them with you, that's what I'm here for. As I said again today, I'm a little bit sick, so the doctor also needs his own medicine, so warm tea at all times so I can keep speaking. But let's see how this goes. Welcome, Julian. Welcome, Joanna. And that's it. So if at any point you guys have any questions or anything like that, just don't hesitate to drop a message on the chat, or if you need to turn on the cameras, I can just turn you all as presenters. That should be by default, but I think you need to accept join the stream. And that's it. With that in mind, while you guys don't drop any questions on the chat or anything like that, welcome Philippa, welcome Shine. I am just gonna start and talk a little bit about Figma for design systems. Does that sound good? Looking for some confirmation on the chat. Great. Okay. Evil with his yes is giving me confirmation, which is good. Okay. So to start, and I think, well, you guys might not be seeing this as well, so I'm just going to do a quick make larger on the interface scale because I know this helps. So bigger buttons, bigger everything, so you guys can see it better. Today, the goal is to talk about all of the things that you can do to start developing your own design systems with Figma tools and what you can actually use or not. I'm going to try to be as evolved as possible, showcase all the new tools, all the new things that you can do, even some of the Figma AI stuff that should now be enabled for most of the population with at least paid accounts, okay? And I'm going to talk about how you can better build these design systems and some of these elements. Okay, just going to lower a little bit this music even more because it's louder for me than it is for you guys usually. Give me a second here. There we go. And as you can see, I'm starting with just a bunch of unproperly built, let's call it like that, objects that will then help us build our own systems and start building something. And we might end the day with some sort of app layout here. I am happy to do the demo from one end to the other, but yet again, the main objective of this is just drop your questions and I'm here to answer, okay? So full-on demo, I'm going to start by talking about the most simple type of element that Figma offers for you when developing something called a design system or a UI kit or anything that you might need to create a systematic solution to develop your apps or your brands. In my case, I use it for brand design a lot. So to start, I have a bunch of stuff here, but some of the stuff that you can easily turn into variables are colors. And let's talk a little bit about what variables are. If you notice here on the top right corner, it says local variables, and I'm going to try and make my mouse really big. And essentially, variables are these reusable numbers, text, or colors. And there's also another type of variable, which is the toggle variables or Boolean variables. And essentially, it's a modifiable universal value that represents something else. I think that's the best way to say it. So in this case, a variable can be used to store a color code, but it's modifiable, so you can actually, for example, play with prototyping to change that variable. It can use to be recording data information, so a number or a width of the component, and you can change it by using different modes of variables or using prototyping for that. So what I'm going to do is I have a collection of colors here that I already have from my brand that I really just want to really fast turn into variables and have them ready to go and start using. So first things first, one thing that it always helps when you're documenting this type of stuff and not lose that much time is you can very easily just come here and rename the layers of the objects where you're trying out your colors and things like that. And that most likely will help you use things like certain plugins that will be able to turn your variables, your colors into variables or styles. In this case, I really just want to make sure that I have all of these colors properly named for my variables. And what I'm going to be building is what we're calling a foundations library. So right now, these are universal values. They are not background button color or something like that. They're going to be brand colors. They're going to have little redundant names. And the scale is so that you have a logic through the numbers to understand what are the lighter shades and what are the darker shades. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come here, use the renaming tool that Figma comes with. If you guys have never used it, it's a really simple thing. And it's just very simple. You can just click on Command R or Control R if you're on Windows, start renaming your layers, and you can actually rename all of the layers at the same time. If you didn't know this, now you know. And in this case, I want to call this color tomato, and then I can use still current name so that I keep all of that scale. And that means that now I have all of my tomatoes from 900 to 50. Yes, I do own a lot of tomatoes, apparently. There we go. And then we got this one. I'm going to call this one corn because in case you haven't noticed, our app that we're working for is a food app. So I think this is like a good naming convention. This green, it kind of looks, yeah, it's a green, but it's a muted green. So I'm not going to call it salad or anything like that, but maybe bean green or something. So I'm going to call it bean. And that's going to be the brand name for my colors. And then these ones, we're just going to call them neutrals because a classic color name always works. Okay. So now that we renamed all of our colors in the layer level, so these essentially are little boxes that have the color applied as a field, I can just, instead of having to go to local variables, create variable, color, name the color, click on the value, load the value or something, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this variable. I'm actually just going to use this collection and I'm going to call it foundations. Okay. And I'm just going to come here, select all of these. And on this little button here for the actions that some of you might not have with the same symbol, but it's the same button. It's just that if you have Figma AI enabled, you're also going to see the AI symbol here because all of the AI tools are under this dropdown. So once you click on it, or if you use the shortcut, in my case is Command, comma, because I'm on the Portuguese keyboard, you can literally just open the menu and you can directly look for plugins and widgets without having to leave your file and go to the community to look for them. So I can just look for like variable or variable something. If I look for a variable like this, you can see that there's a bunch of informations already, a bunch of different types of plugins that do a bunch of things with variables. I'm going to see if I'm not mistaken, but I think this is the one that I want, colors to variables. So I can just click here. Let's see if this works. You can get all the color Figma styles, the CSS. No, this is not what I want. There you go. There's so many new variables that there's always something going on. So I'm going to just look for color variables. And give me a second. There we go. Bind colors to variables, run. I can just select this, pick a collection to select. There are no collections to select. There should be a collection. Let's test it out. There's a collection there. Give me a second here. I think I might have with this plugin to create a variable, even if it's just a placeholder. Let's see if now, with all of these colors selected, running that plugin, there you go. I have foundations. I have mode 1, bind colors to variables. And let's see how it goes. Not working. Interesting. So let's see if I do this with 1. Not me forgetting the name of the plugin that I wanted. It says mission complete, but apparently this plugin is not working. Anyone knows? Anyone wants to drop in the chat the plugin that is actually the correct one? Because I don't want to go and waste your time with this. So it's just, to be fair, we are testing out something where we use the Friends of Figma to color, basically. I think this is the one, color variable creator. Yeah, I think this is the one. I'm just gonna select it. But yeah, today we're testing out using a Friends of Figma shared account for the first time for these live streams. So I'm sorry if I have any of these issues. Also, I don't know if I said hello to everyone already in, but hello again. And don't forget to drop your questions on the chat, even if it's not about specifically what I'm doing. If it is, great. I'm gonna try and do my best to support that. So color variables creator. Yeah, that's it. So we have our collection, the mode here, and in theory, let's see if now I'm not wrong. There you go. All of our colors are immediately created, and we don't need to do this with a bunch of manual work, basically. So you can now just organize them by collections if you want to. So we can just select them and group them into specific groups. So these are the tomato colors. So it just becomes faster to do that. I'm going to do this really fast with all of them. And to be honest, I think that if you do the layer name with a dash, it will also do this. Well, let's just do a little bit of reorganizing here. And then we got mean, groups with selection. And I'm going to call these mean. I'm going to put my neutrals first, and then tomato, corn, and bean. You can see all the variables here, but you can also select specific collections. And as you've seen, it was really easy for me to just generate these really fast. Also, another thing that you can do to make better design systems is you can actually use multiple modes to play around with how much you want to do, like a light mode versus a dark mode or something like that. So we can actually do that somewhat fast too. But now that we loaded all of these, it might be that we also need to just first set up our modes and then try to see if we can shift this really fast. So I'm going to call this the light mode, and I'm going to call this the dark mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to flip the colors. I know that this is, and believe me, this is not a good practice. If you're building for dark modes, build colors for dark modes. I'm just going to do a quick test to see if we can create something like this. So in theory, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come here. I'm going to use the rename tool. I'm going to call them tomato. And I'm going to put the numbering with the order backwards. So it's going to do, wait, I did wrong. Tomato. And then if you want to do the 100, 200, 300, you can use the little number up, number down controls that uses this language that it's called regex. Just keep the first digit and then put the zeros, and it's basically going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it's going to add the zero. So you can see that it now is backwards. Tomato, I'm going to put this one to tomato 50 because it's backwards. And let's run a little test. So now I'm going to run my plugin again. I'm going to say that I want these to be on my foundations dark mode. And I'm going to try and create. And since they have the same name, let's see if they create new ones or if they, yeah, they create new ones. So it doesn't work as I wanted. Not a great experience here. But yeah, essentially, you can do something as simple as basically just flipping them. There's a lot of work, handy work on this. There's probably a plugin that does this not manually. I'm just going to do it with the neutrals, and then eventually in the future, I'm going to try and do it with the others. And I already missed some colors, so you can see that I'm doing a bang-up job. Give me a second here. I think these ones also need to be backwards. So this one there, this one there, this one, it's not here, it's there. And then this one there, this one, it's not copied. So this one should be here. And then this one should be here, and this one should be here. Now, why having these really fast built like this will help you? Quite simple. Now we can actually use colors, for example, to start designing our app. And we can use a background color here. We can start planning around like, oh, I just want to test out how components will work. And I can have a little tomato box here that's going to be, let's say, a button or a widget. And we can play around really fast now with light and dark mode by using the modes here on the right under appearance, right? In theory, again, if we had properly you would also see the other colors changing, but I don't know if I'm going to have time for all of that during the live stream. So that's number one. So Now that we have variables here and that we can use light and dark modes, and I'm pretty sure you guys have seen multiple videos about this, we can also talk about building really fast some components, some styles, and things like that. Similarly to how you have the layers on colors, turning them to variables, some plugins like Styler will allow you to just generate text styles really fast from designed objects, right? They don't need to be like full components. They just need to have like the right names and everything like that. So really simple. We can just click here, go to the Styler tool, and I need to look for it here. Let's see, Styler. And I'm just going to save it because I like to use this a lot. You can just use generate styles. It's going to pick up from the styles and the names of each one of those styles, and bam, all of your styles are now organized here with the right names, with the right line heights and everything like that. Which, to be honest, I'm looking at them right now. I'm like, yeah, no, these are wrong. I don't like those line heights. I don't like those values there. So I'm just going to adjust some of them really fast. And they will now go retroactively they're going to be retroactively applied to those boxes there on the left, because Styler immediately attaches the style to the color. So we can just do on title, I'm going to put like 110 spacing. On subtitle, I'm going to put 130, and then on everything else, I'm going to put 150, because usually this is the density that I use on most of my elements. So we started having some stuff that we had already designed, but we didn't really created them as a system. And now we already have some elements that we can really fastly use as a system. So what I'm going to do before I even start looking into logos and images and everything is just look at our iPhone and start thinking how we can generate some semblance of an app. Our app is called, as you can see here on the left, sorry about that, Foodies, and it has this little 2 eyes icon here. And Foodies is as you guessed it, a Foodies app where you can find really cool places to eat nearby. So with that in mind, we're going to start building our Foodies app. So what we can do, well, first, if we want to create a very systematized, structured way to work within our UIs, we can literally just use our layout grids for that. So Figma has the layout grids. You can just generate whatever type of layout grids you want. I'm going to use a 4-column grid, and I used to use multiples of 8 for paddings and measurements. So I'm just going to use margins of 16 pixels and gutters of 8 pixels, kind of dense because it's a mobile app. So you really need to understand how you use your pixels there. And yeah, and since we're basically starting to design on light mode, I think the grid with red is good enough. I don't want any vertical grids. I just want horizontals, and that's great. If you want to keep using this on all the other apps screens, you can also just create a style with it. Over here, you have these 4 dots that are near anything that you can generate a style or a variable for. In this case, a grid style. You can just click on the plus button, and I'm going to call this my mobile grid. That way, every time that I create a new frame, I can just bring in my mobile grid. So here we go. We're talking about designing the homepage, let's put it like that, so we can start looking into what we can build here. And maybe I just want to start with a little widget where it's like relevant places to eat. So I'm just going to actually copy this image here. I think you saw that Figma was already giving me notes on what I can do or not do. I like that the image has the aspect ratio, but in this case, I actually don't know if I want to work with a square image. And in fact, here comes a really cool trick that you can do. I am not the best person to always have like libraries on and everything. And I'm designing for iOS, right? So it's iOS 101 is that iOS has a bunch of things that you need to have at all times taking into account. The status bar, the control bar on the bottom that I never know the name. I never know the name of it. So Figma actually offers you access to the UI kits. So if you come here to libraries and you click on UI kits, you can just turn on iOS and iPadOS UI kits, and it will give you that. And you can easily come here to the UI kit and look for the elements that you want for iOS to design your apps taking into account those elements. So this is enabled for everyone in case you didn't know. I'm just going to look for a status bar, iPhone, and I'm going to insert an instance. Read and agree, everything from Apple. Yes, I'm going to agree. I don't know what I'm agreeing to, unfortunately, apparently. But I'm just going to bring in this, adjust to the width of my iPhone, remove the background because I want it to be transparent, which is great. And then here comes my problem, which is I never know what that bottom controller is called. So if you guys know the name of it, please, I would love to know. I always come here to the multitasking and I kind of like insert an instance like this, and then I look into the components of the win, and you have like Home Indicator. There you go. Home Indicator, this is the name of it, apparently. I'm just going to copy it and drop it here and see if I'm using it correctly. And even then, I don't think I am. So this thing is supposed to be 32 from the bottom. So like this. I think this is not the correct bar. I still need to look for it again. This is weird. I'm just going to do a quick double check. Well, when you have the keyboards have the bottom. So now maybe I'm going to get the right one. The chat is really quiet, both on YouTube and on friendsofFigma.com. But I would really love to hear from you guys what you think are stuff that you would like to learn, whatever, like stuff that you would like to know about design systems, stuff that you are struggling with Figma today. Thanks, Edil. Happy that it's awesome for you. But yeah, so now that I actually have my Apple elements that will also help me understand what actually space I have available, I can just bring a little indicator here. So I always know that that's like where the status bar starts, and I'm going to do the same here. So these are guides that you can do manually in any page. You can also just drop them on the full canvas. If you didn't know, you just need to turn on your rulers, click and drag to get them here. And now that I have all of this, I can finally start to design my little widget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something using this image as a background. I want to add some text on top, so I can literally just come here, click on the T for text, and start writing. So I'm just going to write a name of a fake restaurant, like Eat Green or something, since it is kind of a salad or something like that. And now I can just use my typography and play around with the styles that I generated. For example, I feel like the title can actually work really well here. So that's starting to look cool. I can also look into my branded colors and see, would this be something where my colors would be readable to some extent? And I'm finding that it's not that the case. And Andrea Reis, can I talk about tokens, or maybe that needs to be another time? I can talk about tokens. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I started with variables for color, but I'm actually going to do a little take in a sec about it. So if you wait like 10 minutes or so, I think that's how much time I need to get there. But we can do it with this component immediately. We can also use this component to talk about that. So what I'm trying to do right now is create something that is readable. The text only on top of the image doesn't feel like it's going to be something that you can read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Figma's auto layout tool to generate a little frame around my text, and I'm now going to add a little background color to it. Okay, I can use a neutral, or I can go more branded and use maybe one of our branded colors, maybe the bean color, had a little bit of color radius, corner radius, and then I'm just gonna do some styling here. I think I want to give it like 8 pixels on each side or something like that. So just gonna do that really fast. Okay. And I want my text to be aligned on the left. So this is already starting to look like a little window widget. And we need other information for this. So I'm just gonna duplicate my text. Apparently my auto layout is horizontal, so I'm just gonna make it vertical. I'm gonna use the body text information here, so it's like smaller and less prevalent, which is exactly what I want. And I'm gonna start adding little widgets or little things. In this case, let's say that we want to put the rating that people gave it. So I'm just gonna put a 5 stars. but I don't have icons, right? So now that I need icons, I'm gonna have to get some information there. But we can also have the distance, and we can put like 20 minutes or away, or maybe we can put the kilometers. So I'm gonna put like 1.2 kilometers or 2.3 apparently, because I wasn't looking at my keyboard. And I'm just gonna use a quick auto layout, put it horizontally. I'm gonna start by calling this my info bar or something. Give it a name. Actually, I'm gonna do something later. And let me just read what Audrey just shared, because Audrey said, could you share if you have tips on how to select colors early on the process that pass accessibility when combined without having to test each combination? Ooh, great question. And then I know Material Design Theme Builder does that, but it really limits your control on colors. So the biggest issue with that is that there are tools that will do that work for you early on, and you can play around with them. But unless you're building with predefined systems, in Figma specifically, there's nothing that does that. I know that, for example, tools like Webflow, where you're building your website, as you're building, Webflow tells you how much your color accessibility rating is when it's on top of another color or something like that. So that actually reduces a little bit of that workload there. But in this case, yeah, it's not that simple. Essentially, at least for me, I've always basically been using Stark as a tool, which is a plugin, for example, that allows you to check accessibility and contrast, and like very early on, keep doing that. They also have a bunch of like cool tools like the auto scan and fix. You need an account to use these, but I don't know if this is enough for what you're looking for, Audrey, but I hope that it helps. I'm just gonna go and do a quick thing, which is I'm gonna just bring a little icon. Also, again, I don't have icons for this, so I'm just gonna use one of my favorite icon plugins, which is Lucid Icons. I love the Lucid Icons library, and it just gives me like access to their full library of icons ready to use. I need a little stars icon, so I'm just gonna have here, click on star. Let's see if it's coming in. Here we go. That's my star. I can now replace that color with one of my maybe green colors. Put it there. Scale it down, like 16. And this is also showing me that I actually have some issues here, because these are using different colors. So I'm going to put all in green. And then I'm going to just get these two closer and in an auto layout of their own. And I'm going to leave that without a name for now. Maybe actually making it backwards. So if I do this, and this is because I'm trying to establish a pattern, I can do also the same thing for distance. And I'm just going to copy this text here, drop it in there. Apparently did this weird thing where it became white or something. So I don't know what happened there. And I'm just going to go again to Lucid Icons, look for a little map or a distance element, something like this. I feel like the pin is a classic. So I'm just going to add the little pin icon. Again, just going to drop it here. If you don't know, you can actually do a really quick thing called paste to replace to just replace it really fast. Really simple thing. And put it in green. And then reduce it to 16 and done. So we have already this like very simple layout here. But it's still not like properly built. There's some stuff here that is missing. I'm just going to do one thing, which is I'm going to turn the image and this into a single component. So I just selected all of them and clicked on Shift-A, and Figma immediately knows that if that image is on the background, is because you just want it as a background. So they turn the background off the frame, the image, but by default, it doesn't really know what you're trying to do with everything else. So it just throws your auto layout to the top. So one thing that you can do, actually, and I'm just going to do a few Command Zs to see if I can get there. Apparently, my Command Zs are not working. Give me a second. I'm just going to reload. Let me just redo this again. I'm going to do an ungroup. I'm going to drop image here, scale it to the width, send it to back, bring this to the bottom. And one thing that you can actually do nowadays, and you can see here, I'm still waiting for admin review, apparently. One thing that you can actually do nowadays is on the auto layout, there's actually an option called suggest auto layout. This option uses AI to try and use better tools to kind of just create an auto layout that is more complete. So even if you haven't used auto layout until that point, even if I have all of this without any grouping, well, which I can't do fully, but I can, for example, remove some degree these auto layouts here and turn them into groups, which is something that you can do. I can just select all of them, do the command for suggest auto layout, which is Command Shift A, and it will try to do a better auto layout. As you can see, it wasn't as, this one specifically couldn't do better. Apparently, it's not as good, but yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick thing. I'm gonna round up my image too, because I like those corner radius a little bit more round. Another thing that I can also do, I can just add the fill so that it fills the entire container, see if my paddings are okay. Everything seems to be cool. Great, so I have my little indicator here. But the fact is, I really like this. And now to talk to Andrea about, for example, tokens. I want this to be more scalable as I build my components and as I know that people will be looking for to better design and build for the system, because when you're building a design system, you also need to work with other designers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it outside to create a component out of it. As I said before, I'm going to call this, let's call it highlight card or something like that. If you don't know what to call your layers with Figma AI, you can actually just use the rename layers feature, and it will try to figure out what to call to every one of the things that it's on your document. So it's going to look at this. As you can see, it gave proper names, which is amazing. I love this feature. And now that I have my component a little bit better, I'm just going to do a quick shortcut. If you look at the top corner here on the create component, you can see there the shortcut. I'm just going to create that click that shortcut, create my highlight card component, and I'm going to replace this with a copy. So I'm starting to build my component library. But one thing that I don't want is that the information that goes here, I don't want this in terms of styles and this to be called bean, to be called neutral, whatever. Like, I want to have like more functional names for these colors that are much more practical when you're building your system. And that is where tokenization starts to come into place, Andrea. So one thing that you can do with variables is you can have multiple collections. In this case, I have foundations. But now that I'm going to create a new collection called semantics, I'm going to call it semantics just because it's a good placeholder for what I'm trying to do. I'm going to create a color variable, and I'm going to call this title, maybe, or card title, for example. And here on the values, we can literally just, instead of creating a new color, we can create an alias, and just go and get the color that you want. In this case, I want the neutral. And then same thing for a couple of other colors. So I'm just going to create variable color, card info, and same thing. I'm just going to create an alias, and I'm going to put this. Now, aside of being able to create this so that when you're applying your colors, you can look for those more foundational things. So if I'm going to do this, if I look for card, you're going to get the information like card title and card info. Outside of that, you can also do something, which is you can also attach specific needs to those tokens. So on the scope of the colors, in this case, I can limit to where they can be applied. And in this case, I only want this to be applied to either text or shapes if we have iconography attached to it, or in this case, because it's a title, it doesn't have iconography. So I'm just going to remove everything but text from this. So I can come here, leave just text, and now every time that I'm going to use that, it only shows when I have a text layer selected. Same with card info. In this case, my scope, I just want it to be able to be applied to shapes and to strokes, maybe, but not frames, not effects, just a limited set of elements. And this will make it so that now, for example, if I want to apply one of these colors to the background here, you're going to see that they don't show anywhere because they are not colors available for the frame. But over here on the bottom, if I come here and I select all of these, and I'm just going to use the selection colors to take less time, you're going to see that the card info option shows here that I can see all of these, okay? So, sorry about that. I can just apply that, and you're using more tokenized information for this, which I think it's closer to what you would be looking for in terms of how you can use tokens in Figma. This can also be applied to a bunch of other stuff. So again, if you want to create on a foundations library, and I can do something a little bit different, which is I'm going to try and group all of these. Let's see if I can do that. Can I generate a new group from the group? I'm just going to create a new group. I'm going to call the new group neutral, and I'm going to call the top one colors. I'm going to pick all of these and put them under colors, so that it's just so that they are organized, because on variables, you can have multiple types of variables. And in this case, on foundation, this thing could have different variables. On light and dark modes, in this case, it's not, but I'm just going to use the same library to create, for example, dimension variables. And I'm going to create variables that are not text strings, sorry about that, but for example, numbers. And I can use like a size 400 and call this what we would call our 16 pixels. And I'm just going to keep it like that. Again, not the best practice. It's just faster to do it like this. I can just create a couple of these. So 800, so that would be twice the size. I'm going to put a size 600, and I'm going to make this a 24 pixels. Really fast. So these would be, and I'm going to group them to call them, let's call it dimensions. These would be a collection of variables that are foundational, that are dimensions. These can probably be applied to anything on scope. You can show them as supported and everything. But what you can also do is remove everything in all of the scope. For all of these, you can select multiple of them and make sure that these like global ones don't show in any of the scope outside of building other variables. And in this case, for example, if we go to semantics, and we can, again, group these to, let's say, I'm just going to put them in the same collections. I'm going to call these colors, and I'm going to create new variables. In this case, a number variable that it's like padding. And it can be literally just this, padding, whatever you want. And through the alias option, I can choose one of my sizes as padding. In this case, I want to use this. And I can just say that from my scope, this is a color that should just show on the gaps. I think that's the only option there that I need to have it for it to work. I hope that I'm not wrong. And now I can come back to my component. And again, on the padding, I'm going to see my padding token ready to change. Now, the advantage of creating the systems like this, doing tokenization like this, is that you're essentially creating a system where if you change the original thing, so if I go to foundations, my size 400 can become 24, and then this one 32, and this one 40, and it will still affect. You can see that now it's bigger. But if for some reason you decide that padding shouldn't be dependent of that, and you need to use a different value, you can just break this and adjust the value yourself. And now you have two different variables that are not dependent. So tokenization wise, this is the best like short explanation I can give. I hope that this helped you with that information. Andrea, you can also use tokens like this for font families if you want to create a collection where you have multiple brands and you can have different names for each brand. So for example, if I come here, create a collection, call it brands, create a text string one. I'm just going to call it title, font, and I create like three modes. Each mode, I'm going to give it a different brand name. So this one, like foodies. This one is going to be, I don't know, greenies. And this one is going to be Friends of Figma, FoF. And then I can literally just change the font by typing the name of the fonts. So in this case, it's Playfair Display. This can be Comic Sans, and this can be Work Sans. And you can do something where in the style on your title, instead of having a font here, you can click on the variable icon, apply your title font, And as you're changing the collections here, you can literally just choose others and see if the font changes. Apparently, I don't have Comic Sans installed, so that one is not working. I'm just going to change it to Arial. I think that one I have. Then it should change. So you can see the three fonts changing really fast by using a combination of these as tokens for different things. Now, I also have a couple of other comments here, so I'm just going to look at those and see what we can help these people. So Shine, hi, I'm new to this field and I want to know a lot about UX UI, and I would like to know what you suggest me as a beginner. What topics should I learn, like usability testing, user research? I don't know about those, but I would like to know your suggestions on it. There's a world out there of things. One really cool thing that you can do is actually go to Figma.com and look for their learning resources. They have a bunch of specific like entry-level training for you for all of these areas. And another thing that I always suggest is try to mimic, just so you understand how like other brands build stuff that other people build on brands that you respect. If you like Spotify, try to replicate how Spotify builds their things. Go look for Spotify's design system on the community. If you click here and you look for the Explore community on the homepage, and you're going to live here, you can search for your favorite brands and everything, see if they have, for example, their design systems and things like that, and try to learn a little bit how they work, how they build their own things. I feel like that's always the best thing that I can say. Outside of that, everything else, it really depends on what you like, what you love, and what you want to build. So at the end of the day, for example, I am not a user researcher, but I've done user research. I am not a UX UI designer full-time. I'm a brand designer, but I do a lot of my work in the UX UI place. So a lot of the stuff that I build design systems, I build websites, I build apps, but they are in the context of brand. So that's my reality. Your reality can be another one. So I don't know if I can tell you exactly like a solution for that as a beginner, but I can suggest that you just really visit Figma's site. I'm going to try and see if I can really fast. Give me a second here. So figma.com/learn. I think that's their URL. I might be wrong. Here we go. Exactly. So they have this whole page called Figma Learn. I dropped it on the chat. And you should be able to see a bunch of information there. Okay. I hope that helps. I really don't know what else to suggest at this point, because if you're still early on, right now, it's time to build, develop your skills, do these trainings like entry level and stuff like that. I feel like that's the best thing that you can do. On looking here right now, on the foundation, so on the colors, as we were talking before, to the conversation about accessibility, Tiago Monteiro said you can use foundation color generator. It will generate you a full color palette based on one X code. You then can generate tokens and styles with the plugins, and also insert the palettes in Figma. Doing this will show you the color contrast of each color with white and black. Again, really good. Like there's a ton of tools like that will generate these palettes for you, which is great. But it's interesting because the thing with all of these tools is like they do create these based on supposedly best practices. I'm not saying that they're not best practices. It is that, again, it is based on a lot of systematized ideology, which is great for saving time. But if you want something a little bit more evolved, a little bit more carefully taken into consideration or different, then you should know that you're going to have to take the time to look into those things by yourself, most likely, and play around a little bit. And then Yuri Salvador, besides the Figma tutorials, is there any advanced certified Figma course? So Figma doesn't have it, but these guys, I think it's called Figma Academy. There's a bunch of different things. So yeah, Figma Academy is from Michael Reed and the Dive Club. They have this really big, cool program about basically becoming like a better product designer with Figma. There's also, let me look for Joey Banks' course. Joey Banks has a really cool Figma course. I need to just look for that. Yep, level up with Figma. Yeah, I think this is it. I'm just sharing all of these links on the chat of the Friends of Figma. I should be also sharing it on on YouTube. So sorry for my YouTube buddies. I'm just going to copy those links again, so you have all of them on YouTube too. But yeah, like these are not official Figma, but they are very much in line with what Figma loves in terms of communities and everything. I think there's also another one, and give me a second. So, but this one, give me a second. So there's one that I love to suggest, but it's not a Figma thing. It's Shift Nudge. Shift Nudge is like an amazing UI and interaction design course. It has limited spots. I think that they are now on one of their cohorts. It's a great course, and you'll learn a lot. It's also one that I suggest a lot of times, Yuri. Okay, we have about 10 minutes. We haven't developed that much the on the app, but I'm loving to answer all of your questions and pains and things. So, is it recommended to use a base design system as material design, etc.? I struggle a bit on customizing it. That is a business or product decision, period, Selena. So, I work with certain components of like pre-built design systems or pre-built collections and things like that every now and then, but I am not someone in my reality that works with the concept of using a pre-built design system for most things. I know that design systems like material design and Ant are amazing. Like they have a bunch of components and a bunch of things, and they are great if you want to start fast, but that's a business decision at the end of the day, in my opinion. So I would love to say that it's easy for me to tell you how to start there, but it is basically something that has to do with how much you think you should or not be doing with that, basically. So yeah, that's my best take at this point. Okay, really fast. I'm just going to create a really quick component set with variants just to show you that you can also use that for things like logos and branding. So in this case, I'm just going to create like a brand component where I have all the variations on my logo, icon, app icon. You can use auto layout to organize this. I love it because it allows us to really quickly move these things. And then you can use, for example, the properties to actually create little selectors to really fast pick what you want. So in this case, I want to call these properties icon. And what I'm going to do is like these two are both icons. So I'm going to say that these two are true. They are icons, but this one is false because this is the logo. I also want to make sure that when you pick it up, this is the first one you get. So that's it. And then I'm just going to create another variant, and I'm going to call it app. By default, I'm going to make it false. And I'm going to make it true for this one. And what this makes is that when you're inserting these things into your designs, in this case, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use the insert thing. I'm going to look for my brand component, pull that one in. And you can see that now I can choose, and I know that it's in white. I'm going to fix that in a sec. Really fast, I can choose if I want the icon or the app with just these quick selectors by using the true false thing. And in this case, I actually just want to use the icon. I just noticed that my colors are wrong. This is not what I want. I wanted it to be with my tomato color. So I'm just going to use my tomato 700 here. And that will adjust my icon here. Cool. So the top banner of my app will have that. I'm just going to put an auto layout really fast, start designing. And again, if you're building a design system or a product, start by designing, then start componentizing. So in this case, I really wanted to do that. I started building my card, which is great. But now, for example, I'm thinking, yeah, how can I show that this is a gallery? And my card seems to be a little bit wide. So maybe I can do something like maybe reduce a little bit of the size of it. And fortunately, I built my component in a way that it's actually already working with it. So I'm just going to use, again, a couple of my tricks and build a little, another option here. So I can make it kind of a gallery that horizontal scroll. I can use my auto layout to build it really fast, adding the padding to it so that it's already aligned with how the app works. And fun thing, if I'm just going to copy this outside so you guys can see. Figma, when they have stuff like this, they understand that you're trying to create something that uses replication components. So they give you the option with AI to just click this, and it will generate your information to the site. Now, one thing you'll notice is that it didn't change anything. But if I change the name of the restaurant, and I can put here, this one is Eat Green, the second one can be, I don't know, Red Berries. It doesn't matter. What Figma will try to do with AI is it will try to generate new titles for all the new things that you put here. Like, this is so cool to create these really quick components. And if you feel like, this is too large of a gallery, you can just reduce it really fast. I can call this component now my gallery. Yeah, I know, Yuri, you told me this week that you were looking for Figma AI. Unfortunately, this is something that not everyone has access to already. So if you guys are like wanting this, sorry about that. But yeah, and you can see that it also did something really cool, which is looked at the distances and change the distances, change the names. And if I just want to generate images really fast, Figma AI will not do that, but I can use, for example, a plugin like Unsplash. And on Unsplash, I can just run a quick query on food, tab enter, and it will try to find images, in this case, one image. If we want different images for everything, we might have to actually open the plugin and select those images. They have a bunch of pre-built categories, so I'm just going to go to food, and I'm going to start selecting by holding my mouse, so I can just click on this. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Amazing. I already have a gallery here. I'm going to turn this into a component, replace this here, and I'm going to do something, which is I'm going to reduce it to this width so that I can then do one thing, which is on the prototypes. For example, I can say that I have horizontal scrolling, and really easily, I already have a couple of different components, a main component that it's a card and a subcomponent that it's a gallery that gives me interaction on my design system that I can use. You can also see that, for example, one thing that is not happening correctly here is the padding on the right. That's something that happens a lot of times with this type of components. So you need to be careful, like, oh, I want my interaction to actually end here so that I know that my scroll goes up until that point. So your component needs to be up until that point, or you're not going to see it. But we're starting to have like an app, and we still have like 4 minutes. So let's see what else I can do in my system and start having this thing. So I already have a couple of different components. I already have variables as colors. I have a couple of components for our logos. Let's organize this a little bit, shall we? So one thing that I always suggest is, if you want to organize your system, use the pages in Figma files to actually just move your components around and make sure that you can find them really easily. So in this case, I'm just going to create a components page. And on this page, I'm just going to come here to the design system thing, and I'm going to move all of my master components, or my main components, sorry about that. Language changed a little bit, into the components page. I'm just going to keep them organized like this so that it's easy for me to find them. And in case you didn't know, if you want to add some information to actually how people should use the components or anything like that, you can also use Figma documentation directly. So in any component you create, you have this thing called component configuration, and it will give you a space to add information about your components. And that will work for two things. Not only it will give anyone that is using that component information on how they should be using them or how those components work, that will also give you search terms when you're using Figma search to look for these. So in this case, I can use keywords or full sentences. In this case, I'm just going to use a really quick set of keywords to say, it's a card, so it's like a restaurant, rating. And what Figma will do is we'll pick up these as search terms, for example, and I can just leave this here like a little thing. And once you're trying to add this and you look for restaurant, for example, it will always show up here because it's getting that information from your component descriptions. In this case, if you don't know how to open this menu, it's just Shift-I, and it will open this menu, and you can really quickly search for that. So we have a few of these. I'm still missing a few icons, a few other informations, but we also have only 2 minutes. So I might just try and do something really different, which is, I don't have the time. I'm just going to use Figma's first draft. You can use the AI to generate apps. It's not going to be on brand. I'm sorry about that, but you can do something like this for inspiration. And in this case, I'm just going to use Figma AI to go and ask for a food, or better yet, a foodies. I'm going to call it the foodies app called Foodies with list of great restaurants nearby, rated by quality. Let's see what Figma makes out of this. Give it a second there. There you go. And it's also creating a bunch of new components that we can then use as inspiration and maybe use. Again, I wanted to show more features, but as answering these questions also always takes a little bit more time. So I think I already shown a little bit what you can use as base components to start building your systems, styles, variables, everything like that. We didn't talk a little bit of how you can also add some of these prototyping features, which is cool. Again, we do this twice a month. One in Portuguese, one in English. So the next one is going to be in English. It's going to be in Portuguese, sorry. So for anyone that it's been here today for the full hour, be my guest, show up next time. Meanwhile, I'm just going to enjoy the app that Figma made for me, that it's much more complete than mine, but doesn't use the correct components. But it's a great inspiration set, and it gives me a lot of components here that I might reuse, like this navigation maybe. But that's it. Like you can see here, really how you can use all of these. Now, if you guys are intending to come at another session, please bring your questions. I would love to have your questions. I would love to support all of these. That's what these sessions are for. These sessions are mostly to try and help you guys. So just bring all of those questions and everything like that. And thank you for joining me for another episode. I hope to see you guys soon for another Dr. Figma. Oh, wait. And I actually have few things to talk about, but they are not here really. So I'm just going to do a quick thing. See if you guys allow me the second here. And I don't know. Yeah, you can see everything. Great. No worries. So they added. I forgot to drop this here, but I would love to let you guys know that one of our friends conference, let's put it like that, the conference that is also has some people from Friends of Figma Krakow, so in Poland. WasteConf actually has call for speakers open, which is fun because we just also opened our call for speakers for Layers Portugal, which is Friends of Figma Portugal conference. And why are we sharing WasteConf? Because these guys are really, really cool, really, really great, but they also are supporting a couple of other events that we have here in Portugal. So if you guys give me a sec, I'm just going to share a screen with you, and you'll understand what I'm trying to share, which is, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to share this here. So you found this event either on YouTube or on friendsoffigma.com. And as you can see, we have a bunch of events coming up. And a few of them are also related to our good friends at WasteConf. One of them being, for those who are in Portugal, if you're attending the National Students Design Encounter or Encontro Nacional de Estudantes de Design, NED, we actually are going to be running a design challenge. And if you have a ticket for the conference, you can register for the challenge, and you can also win tickets for a bunch of other really cool conferences. So third, second, and first place will all have tickets for our conference, Layers Conference, and I'll show that in a sec. Second place will also get tickets for Design FAO in Algarve, in Faro, on 26th of September. And the first place will also get tickets for WasteConf. All of these events are events that are really cool. Layers is our regional conference, and it's a free conference. It's going to happen on October 9 and 10. We just have our call for speakers open and volunteer and partners registration. So we really are looking for the people who will help us bring this event to reality by the end of the year. We're going to have a full day online and a full day in person in Porto at the eBank IT offices. And then Design FAO already has a really cool lineup. It's, I believe, the 4th edition or the 5th edition. I think it's a 4th, if I'm not mistaken. It was, the original one was supposed to happen in 2020. And as you can see through the videos, it's a really cool mood and environment. They already have their entire lineup, me included, apparently, which a bunch of great voices from all over the place to talk about themes that go from creativity and innovation to a bunch of tools like AI, future of design, and things like that. And for last but not least, again, WasteConf. The early bird for WasteConf actually is opening next week, but if you want to become a speaker, you have until April 4th, and they have a really cool conference, which is Central Europe's largest product and design conference in Krakow in Poland. So that's it. This is what I wanted to share with you guys today. I know that it's already a little bit over time, like 5 minutes or so, but thank you so much for showing up for Dr. Figma, and I'll see you guys in the next event or one of the next episodes. And if not Dr. Figma, don't forget to check our page for all the events that are happening with Friends of Figma Portugal. Next week, we're going to have 2 different meetups that we're partnering with. Into Design Systems meetup on March 27, and the accessibility meetup in Portuguese on March 29th in Lisbon. And also, if you are in Portugal, don't forget to join the ENED 2025 because, and I don't know if they have this on the website really fast, but I think that they don't have all the information here. They don't. But if you look on their Instagram, which is the best source of information for them, you can see that they have a bunch of amazing speakers, including David Carson as their main speaker, which is an amazing name to go catch. And ENED is a really accessible conference. So if you guys want to join this next generation of students and things like that, and you're in Portugal, come join us. But you can see there's a bunch of other people: Adriano Esteves, Smart Graphics. There's a bunch of really cool stuff that you can do there. And as you can see, we're also partners. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm blabbing about. See you guys in the next episode, and I hope that you had fun today. See ya.